Now, there's plenty of blame to go around for the humiliating retreat from America's longest war. Many Americans understandably supported the decisions of both President Biden and President Trump to bring US forces home. But the manner of America's exit has delivered an almost unprecedented blow to US military prestige and diplomatic and geopolitical reputation. It's the politicians, not the generals who seem to be covering for them, who should be held accountable. Well, joining me now is Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. She's a member of the Armed Services Committee and had a chance to question top US military generals today. Senator, thanks for joining me.
Good to join you. Thank you.
What did you learn today that was most important to you?
One of the things that we learned today was that even though there were options presented to President Biden for other plans, if something went wrong, that those were not considered. They didn't have a plan B, more or less. I think that's significant. The other thing is the president didn't take the advice that was given from the commanders on the ground. Now, we still don't know where all of the breakdown was between McKenzie, Milley, Austin, Jake Sullivan, Susan Rice, and the president. There will be other hearings. We've got a classified hearing to step back into right now. The other thing that was really significant, we have, on a bipartisan basis, been trying to get information about the number of American citizens, SIV holders, allies that are left behind to enemy lines. And to date, nobody has a number. And that is astounding that nobody, even though they were asked by a Republican and a Democrat, no one can tell you how many people are left in Afghanistan that need to be gotten out.
Senator, President Biden has said that it was President Trump who signed the deal originally with the Taliban, set an earlier withdrawal date, that if he had not continued to observe President Trump's agreement, there would have been much more fighting. The US would have had to put much more forces in, that it wasn't sustainable as it was. What do you say to that?
Well, the president is just reconfiguring what was there. He chose to give up that agreement that had been agreed to, not only our administration, our government, and the Afghan government, but also our allies in the region, our NATO partners. And President Biden decided he wanted a date certain. He wanted to get out of there. So he basically threw away the agreement that was in existence, that was a conditions-based agreement, and said, we're going for a date certain. So at that point, what you saw was all of this confusion and upheaval, and not knowing who is there, not knowing who needs to come out, being uncertain as to how they're going to get people out and how they're going to wind things down, the giving away of Bagram airfield, the list goes on and on. It has been a debacle.
Senator, what did you learn today about that terrorist attack that killed 13 American servicemen and women? What led to that? What do we know about that?
I think what we know about that, and we'll know more after the classified briefing portion, but what we know about that is that this was supposedly going to go after some terrorists that were going to be making their way to HK Airport. They instead ended up attacking a U.S. aid worker and seven children.
Yes.
Got the whole family.
Okay, so that's the drone attack. Yeah. They made an error on. But I mean, do we know anything about what led to the deaths of the 13 servicemen that preceded that?
The one that preceded that, yeah. No. We do not have any further information as to that attack at the Abbey Gate, which is the one you're referencing, right, and the 13 lives that were lost there.
And finally, Senator, there were also some questions to General Milley, particularly about some of the revelations, some of the quite extraordinary revelations we've been hearing about what he was up to talking to his Chinese counterpart in the final days of the Trump administration. He denied that he'd done anything wrong. What was your sense of what he said?
It was astounding that he would call his Chinese counterpart, that he would call others, that he would talk to Speaker Pelosi. And he tried to provide a position and a nuance on those calls. I do not think he was successful. Likewise, I questioned him about the reporters. There are 3 books that are out now and asking him if he indeed talked to the authors of those books and gave them information on conversations with President Trump. He admitted, yes, he had talked to 5 of the 6 authors. And you know what is so amazing about that? He sits there in committee under oath and says, I cannot tell you about conversations I had with President Biden, but he had these conversations with these authors, placed himself into these books for his reputation repair, and was talking about President Trump, the commander-in-chief.
Senator, just very, very quickly, because we've got to go. From what you've seen and heard today and what you've said and seen and heard previously, do you think anyone needs to be held accountable for this? Should someone resign?
Absolutely.
Do you think General Milley should resign?
I do think General Milley, Secretary Austin, I think that they should resign.
Okay.
It is important that there be accountability for what has transpired here.
Senator Marsha Blackburn, Tennessee, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.